Hi there, friends. Food for thought. I'm sure I won't be long. So, I was reflecting on creation and I was reflecting on how Adam and Eve was just there in the garden and they did a thing that God said that they were not supposed to do, and then they were kicked out of the garden. And then by now, the enemy thought for sure that, yeah, I got what I wanted. Enmity between God and men, rejoicing that he has accomplished his task, and not only did he cause them to sin, but the anger of God was kindled against them to the point where they were no longer able to stay in that place where God designed for them and placed them. They were no longer qualified to be at that particular place, and the enemy was rejoicing. And I'm just thinking about how nothing is really new under the sun. And if we are really reflecting or listening scriptures or reading scriptures or paying attention to spiritual things, then we will actually know how to deal with situations in our life better. We will actually see that of the truth there is nothing new under the sun. To every problem, a solution is there, because God, would have already had some form of plan, you know, something to help, or something someone already did, so there's no struggles, there's nothing really new that we are in that someone else didn't manage to come out of. And I was just thinking, and it provokes my thought really, about how the enemy was just laughing. They were kicked out, and the anger of God was against them. But then the Lord will have something called redemption plan for humanity. Because even after we see them being kicked out, we still see where, God repented of making man and causes the flood to destroy everything, but yet he spared them two by two. So he still had a plan for them. He still had a chance for mankind to somewhat become what he designed them to be. And I'm looking about the many ways the enemy destroys our homes, our friendship, relationship in the job, in the homes, at church, in the business place. I'm looking at the many different way relationships are being destroyed, the many different way the enemy is laughing. Persons are laughing because they have managed to cause anger and chaos to be in the midst of what is supposed to be peace and tranquility, of what is supposed to be, the next best thing, success, growth, nourishment. They're laughing at this. And I was just saying, even so, we too must give or have what is called the redemption plan actively, manifesting in the broken state of our life, our relationships. And so, if it's a broken home, don't just say, oh, I'm done. The same grace that God gives to humanity, the same second chance that God truly gave to humanity, this is what we should also be giving to each other. And this is not an easy thing. This is not even an easy thing for me to say. Perhaps I'm even the last person to even suggest this thing, because I am not, strong where it comes to letting go. I'm not strong in areas where I feel as though I was used, or I'm just not strong in those areas. Once I am aware of these things and once I feel these things, my immediate response is to take myself out, and not just take it out, but not to have anything at all to do with the person that I believe mishandled me, misuse me, speak against me. Not in not just in relationship, because it has happened in a relationship, personal, but not just that, in friendship, in relationship, sisterhood, motherhood, mother to child, sisters, blood relatives. I've seen where there's a need for grace, there's a need for that redemption plan to take place. There is need for grace, for us to give grace, to show grace. And it is not easy. But we cannot afford the enemy to destroy our life. We cannot afford for the enemy to destroy the place where God has placed us. We cannot allow the enemy to take us away from the provision. We can't allow the enemy to deny us of what God intends for us to have. It's why we are in the marriage. It's why we are at that business. So we must have a plan. Give grace and pray for insight and say, God, how can I come back from this? What would you have me to do? And surely, not everything will be able to mend in a way where we have continue in the thing, like for some marriages that are already broken because of the many chances that was given. Not everything would be restored in such a way that they can continually embark on it. But as much as it concerns you, give as much grace, give as much grace that you can, just as how the Lord is giving us grace, just as how the Lord would have sent his son into the world, not to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Even so, we must see the areas in our life where the enemy really just touched it and we just gave up on it. Cut them off. And I said, I'm not the easiest person to even say this, because I've had my fair share of trauma. And for me, I like to work around things until I work past it. And what's bad about that is that many times I'm working around situation, around people, without even they seeing that I'm working around them until I'm past them. As in, completely cut or shut down, withdrawal. And so I'm just reflecting on that and saying, you know, grace brings redemption. And even in our day-to-day life, we need to have this grace. We need to have a restorative plans for the things and the events in our life that the enemy had managed to disturb. And that's just all I will say. Let me know what you think.